Well, the month of February has concluded for Bob's Underground Artist Gauntlet. The winner this month is an artist by the name of Vernon Harris and a producer by the name of Nkosi Kamal. And together they have produced an album called The American Gothic. This album came out last year on Halloween. And in terms of a Halloween album, I feel like it's pretty damn perfect for that theme. And if you're a fan of clipping, if you're a fan of, let's say, Death Grips in terms of the aesthetic, but maybe you feel like every now and then they get a little too wild for you, or maybe you're a fan of JPEG Mafia and some of his darker songs, The American Gothic is perfect for you, in my opinion. Very good production throughout, both aesthetically and in terms of supporting the lyrical content and the story that's happening from track to track. Vernon Harris has written a really cool, dark, strange, kind of twisting and turning story throughout the album. I've got a bunch of notes about the tracks, but I don't really want to say much because it will give it away. It will spoil it. It's a hard album to talk about without spoiling what happens. I will say that the album itself does loop. So where it ends is where it starts, which is cool because it makes the album that much more interesting. And as I listened to it this week and explored it, they kind of settled into the sound, reading the lyrics and understanding the story that was going on, you start to pick up on little tidbits. There's different themes about, like early on, he's mentioning 3 digits and how it's his address. And later on in the album, there's a track called 3 digits. There's a theme about left, right, like these footsteps. That plays out through the album in different ways, both in, I guess, in the reality and in the dream. Like, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. There's track 8 is this interlude skit thing where he's speaking with the detective because the detective wants to know what happened that night. You know, where did you meet the girl? All this other stuff. Vernon Harris starts getting very uncomfortable, doesn't want to answer questions, and then the detective says, don't worry, we understand you're a victim in this too. We just want to try and, put the pieces together. Goes into recounting what happened. It's really interesting album. It's a really interesting album. It is fun to listen to. Overall, the production I feel like is pretty good for what it's doing. It is a darker tone, gothic tone, which reminds me, if you look at the cover, the American Gothic here, very reminiscent. Seems like a direct nod to the painting American Gothic with the farmer and his pitchfork and his wife standing next to him. And the production's cool in the sense that there are tracks that are like kind of filled with these tappings and these sounds and anxiety, which are matching parts of the story that's happening at the time. There's times when the tracks back off, kind of more of a spacious, rich synth type of sound to support, a dream or a haze or a hangover type of situation that's going on with the album. The winning track was Manifest Destiny, which is the first track. Essentially, it's track 2, but it's the first real song on the album. I really enjoy, I think it's track 8. I don't have the numbers right next to me. Doomed. Maybe it's not 8. Maybe it's like 10 or something. But Doomed is incredible. It's kind of the climax of the story. And without giving too much away, the character's going on this murderous rampage and just destroying everything around him. It's a really interesting song. And then it's cool, too, because after that, with the following tracks, The Town, Die by Fire, you kind of get this hangover from the event and then the consequences from the event and then how everything hinges and loops again. It's really interesting. Overall, I've enjoyed it. I would definitely give it a killer jam rating, if you would. And like I said before, if you're a fan of clipping, you absolutely need to check this out. And I've only heard one clipping album, Visions of Bodies Being Burned. Or no, I'm sorry, it was the other one, Addiction to Blood. There was an Addiction to Blood. And I think this probably draws the closest parallel to that album. Not to say that, they're stealing a sound or a style from clipping, but if you enjoy clipping, you absolutely need to hear this album, in my opinion. It's very worth listening to. The Halloween aesthetic especially is perfect. And I guess that's it. I would love to speak more, but like I say, if I start talking too much about each individual track, I will spoil the story. So I did find when I was listening, Vernon, he's got good vocals, he's got good flow, good performance overall. Sometimes it does feel like there's a little too much coming at you at the same time. It would have been neat to see a little bit more of change in cadence with his flow. But he's doing a good job of just cranking out the story. And then I think, too, my only criticism of the production would be there were times I did feel like we've got the loop of the beat and it doesn't really have a lot of variation from there. Some tracks vary, but generally speaking, once the structure is in place, it pretty much stays in place. So it would have been neat to hear on the sonic side of things, just little sound, ad-libs, a little bit of variation, things like that, because especially with this style of sound, this darker sound, this gothic sound, you've got a lot of freedom to throw in those strange little sound ad-libs. You don't have to stay with the structure. But overall, Nkosi makes a great beat that Vernon Harris does a great job of rapping on top of. So the two working together do a great job, very consistent throughout the album. So no complaints there at all. And that's pretty much it for my review. I definitely recommend it to any Clipping fan, any Death Grips fan, any darker JPEG Mafia fan in terms of the theme. It's right up that alley. So if you enjoy that kind of sound, that type of story, you'll enjoy it, I think. And I hope you guys check it out. And Vernon and Nkosi, I think you guys did a great job. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully I'll hear new tracks from you soon, and we can hear more of you in the BUAG. And yeah, I guess that's it. We'll see ya.